What's happening, Confess TV family? Today's story is going to blow your mind. I made my own family believe I was losing my mind. And the worst part? I enjoyed every second of the attention it gave me. My brother rearranged his entire life to check on me. My sister canceled her vacation. My mom cried herself to sleep thinking she was watching me disappear, all because I wanted them to care about me again. But here's the thing. Nobody tells you about lying to the people you love most. Eventually, you can't tell where the lie ends and you begin. And that's when everything falls apart. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I need to tell someone the truth before I lose myself completely. Because right now, sitting here, I honestly can't remember if I'm pretending anymore or if this is just who I've become. It started so innocently. I forgot my nephew's birthday. When my sister brought it up at dinner, everyone started teasing me. Getting old already? My brother laughed. My mom chimed in, maybe you're going senile like your grandfather. They were all laughing, but there was this pause. This moment where I saw something flicker across their faces. Concern. Real concern. And for the first time in months, maybe years, they were all looking at me. Really looking at me. I'd been invisible for so long. Ever since my divorce, I felt like I was disappearing. My siblings had their own lives. My mom was busy with her book club. I was just there. The one who never got married again, never had kids, never did anything worth talking about. But in that moment, when they thought maybe something was wrong with me, I mattered again. So the next week, when my sister asked me if I remembered our conversation about her job interview, I hesitated just a beat too long. Which conversation? I asked, even though I remembered perfectly. We talked about it yesterday for 20 minutes, she said slowly. I shrugged and acted confused. Are you sure that was me? The look she gave me, it was like she was seeing me for the first time in years. It felt so good to be important again. Once I realized how easy it was, I couldn't stop. It became this sick game I played with myself. How far could I push it? How much could I make them care? I started leaving the stove on by accident. When my mom came over and found it, she got this terrified look on her face. She made me promise to be more careful, and then she started calling me twice a day to check in. Twice a day. My mom, who used to go weeks without calling, was suddenly worried about me every 12 hours. I pretended to lose track of what day it was. I'd call my brother on a Wednesday and ask him if we were still on for Sunday dinner. It's Wednesday, he'd say gently. Sunday dinner isn't for 4 days. Oh, I'd say, trying to sound confused and a little scared. I thought, never mind. Within a month, he was checking on me every other day. I started keeping a notebook. Not of things I needed to remember, of things I needed to forget. Little details I could mess up that would seem natural. The name of my coworker, what I had for breakfast, whether I'd already told someone a story. The notebook became my script. Every interaction was planned. Every confused moment was carefully orchestrated. The attention was intoxicating. Suddenly, I was the center of every conversation. Not the forgotten middle child. Not the divorced disappointment. I was the one they worried about. The one they rallied around. The one who needed them. 3 months in, I made my first real mistake. I called my mom one evening, and when she answered, I just sat there in silence. Hello? Sweetie, are you there? Mom? I said, putting on my most confused voice. Why am I calling you? I can't remember why I picked up the phone. The truth was I was lonely. I'd had a terrible day at work, and I just wanted to hear her voice. But instead of saying that, I turned my loneliness into another lie. The silence on the other end was deafening. When she finally spoke, her voice was shaking. Honey, this is getting serious. I think we need to get you to a doctor. Panic hit me. A doctor would know immediately that nothing was wrong, but I couldn't back down now. No, I said quickly. I'm not ready for that. I'm scared of what they might tell me. It was the perfect response. My mom spent the next hour comforting me, promising we'd take it slow. That night, she called my brother and sister. They both called me the next day, their voices careful and gentle. My brother started coming over twice a week to help around the house. My sister began inviting me to everything. She was afraid to leave me alone. I started planting evidence of my condition. I'd put my keys in the freezer and then discover them there when someone was visiting. I'd write myself reminder notes and leave them where people could see them. Remember to take medication, even though I wasn't on any medication. The notes worried them more than anything else. My mom found one that said, "Don't forget you live alone now," and she broke down crying. I felt terrible about making her cry, but I also felt powerful. For the first time in my life, I had the ability to make people feel things about me. One day, I overheard my brother on the phone saying, "I just don't know how fast this is going to progress. She seems confused about basic things now." Basic things. I'd convinced them I was forgetting basic things. The pride I felt was immediately followed by the deepest shame I'd ever experienced. 6 months into my lie, my family wasn't just worried anymore, they were making plans. My mom had been researching care facilities. She'd printed out brochures and hidden them in a folder she thought I couldn't see. Memory care units, assisted living, places where people like me, people who weren't really like me at all, went to live out their declining years. My brother had started talking to a lawyer about power of attorney. "Just to be prepared," he told my sister when he thought I couldn't hear. They were planning for my fictional future, and that future was terrifying, even though it wasn't real. My mom had aged years and months. She developed this nervous habit of watching me constantly, analyzing every word for signs of confusion. My sister had turned down a promotion that would have required travel because of a family situation. I was the family situation. My brother's marriage was suffering. His wife was getting resentful of how much time he was spending taking care of me. I'd overhear their arguments when he'd call to say he'd be late because he was checking on me. I was destroying their lives with my selfishness, and I couldn't figure out how to stop without destroying them in a different way. The lies were getting harder to keep track of, too. I'd forget what I was supposed to have forgotten. My family started making excuses for my inconsistencies. "She has good days and bad days," my mom would tell people. They were gaslighting themselves on my behalf, explaining away evidence that I was fine because they couldn't bear the alternative. I started having nightmares about getting caught. But I also started having different nightmares where I really was losing my memory, and I couldn't remember how to tell my family the whole thing had started as a lie. I'd wake up genuinely confused about what was real and what wasn't. The moment everything started to fall apart was when my nephew got engaged. The family was planning this big celebration dinner, but a week before, my mom sat me down and gently suggested that maybe I shouldn't come. "It's going to be loud and crowded," she said, her voice so careful and kind it made me want to scream. "I just think it might be overwhelming for you right now." She was protecting me from my own family. She was shielding me from celebrating my nephew's happiness because she thought I was too broken to handle it. That's when I realized what I'd done. I hadn't just made them worry about me, I'd made them see me as fragile, as someone who couldn't handle normal life anymore. I'd become their burden instead of their equal. I told her I wanted to go anyway. She agreed, but spent the next week warning everyone to keep conversations simple. The dinner was torture. Everyone spoke to me like I was made of glass. They asked me simple questions with obvious answers. They were trying to be kind, but they were treating me like a child. Halfway through the evening, my nephew's fiancé started telling me about their wedding plans. She was excited, asking my opinions about flowers and venues. For a few minutes, I forgot to be confused. I engaged with her completely, offering real advice, sharing stories, laughing at her jokes. When I looked up, my entire family was staring at me with confused expressions. I'd been too normal, too engaged, too much like my old self. I panicked and pretended I didn't know what we'd been talking about. "I'm sorry," I said to the fiancé. "I got confused. What were we discussing?" The hurt on that poor girl's face was devastating. She'd been having a real conversation with someone she thought was interested, and suddenly that person was gone. But my family relaxed. The confusion was familiar. They were more comfortable with my fake brokenness than with my real self. That's when I knew I was trapped. I've been living this lie for almost a year now, and I don't know how to get out of it. The worst part is that I'm not sure I want to anymore. Because here's what nobody tells you about pretending to lose your mind. Sometimes the pretending becomes real. I've spent so much time acting confused that confusion feels natural now. I've rehearsed forgetting things so often that I actually do forget them sometimes. Last week, I genuinely couldn't remember if I'd already told my mom about a problem at work or if that was just something I'd planned to pretend to forget. I stared at my notebook, the one where I write down my fake memory lapses, and I couldn't remember if I'd written something down because it really happened or because I wanted to fake it later. The line between performance and reality has completely disappeared. My family's making bigger plans now. They want me to move in with my mom, while I can still enjoy her company. They're talking about selling my house because I might not be able to maintain it much longer. They're dismantling my independence piece by piece, with love and good intentions, because they think I'm disappearing. And maybe I am. Maybe I've lied so much about losing myself that I've actually done it. I catch myself now having real moments of confusion that aren't planned. I'll walk into a room and genuinely forget why I came in there. Is that normal forgetfulness? Or have I trained my brain to be confused so well that it started happening on its own? I don't know anymore. And that terrifies me more than anything. So here I am telling strangers the truth I can't tell the people I love. I'm not losing my memory. At least I wasn't in the beginning. I was just lonely and desperate for attention, and I found the cruelest possible way to get it. I made my family believe they were watching me disappear, and I enjoyed the pain it caused them because that pain was proof they loved me. I know how sick that sounds. I know how terrible I am. But I'm trapped now. If I tell them the truth, that I've been lying for a year, that I let them rearrange their lives and break their hearts for nothing, they'll never forgive me. If I keep lying, I lose them slowly as they watch me pretend to fade away. If I tell the truth, I lose them all at once when they realize who I really am. So I sit here, planning my next performance of confusion while genuinely feeling more lost than I ever pretended to be. Maybe that's my punishment. Maybe this is what happens when you fake losing your mind for attention. Eventually, you actually do lose yourself, just not in the way anyone expected. I wanted them to love me so desperately that I became someone unlovable. The person I was before this started feels like a stranger to me now. She was invisible and forgotten, but at least she was real. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what's performance and what's genuine. I don't know if there's any of the real me left to save. But I had to tell someone the truth, even if it's strangers who will never know my name. I had to say it out loud. I'm not sick. I'm just broken in a different way than everyone thinks. And I don't know how to fix it without destroying everything I care about. Maybe that's exactly what I deserve.